I tried to use a 1969 pattern drafting book that I've never used before, and it was by far the most challenging thing I've ever tried.
It also doesn't feel like it's my size.
Did you know that you, yes, you, and well, technically me, did you know that technically we're allowed to make whatever we want when we're sewing? Because I sometimes forget that. But today, yes indeed, today, that is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be making whatever I want. And what I want is I want to see a role reversal in Scooby Doo. Not a gender bend, just a role reversal. Imagine with me, if you will, a Daphne that instead of being the fashion-forward diva that she is, instead she got dressed like the Brainiac, but was still just her average character. And instead, the very intellectual and witty Velma got to be the fashion star. But you see, this isn't going to be just any Velma. I am going to be using the dot system from 1969. Yes, indeed, the same year that Scooby Doo launched. So I am going to be using this vintage system to make my pattern. Because you see, I got this fabric right here in the estate sale I bought a few years ago, and it has just been waiting for its moment in the sun. Well, if you don't count how long it sat in the outbuilding with potentially the roof caved in on it, but that's fine. So I am going to be using this vintage system to make my own pattern for a Vel-MOD Dinkley. Get it? I'll see myself out. So I am going to be picking a pattern out of this original 1969 booklet. And the cool part about this is that this is one of those systems where any pattern that I want is in this book by using these diagrams. And when I think of mod style, I think of A-line dresses, bright bold colors, and weird shapes. And that is a weird shape. So I think I'm going to start by using this jacket here because it still has the 3/4 sleeve that Velma always enjoyed. And even here it says, use dress 6912, which is this super fun A-line dress that has a color block here in the middle. And it will definitely be a challenge because not only am I going to be drafting princess lines, but also I'm going to be drafting a yoke that has a dart in it, and quite a large one at that. Yes, and none of these come with seam allowance, so I have to remember to do that. But now, my instructions say that I must take their provided tape measure, which, since I'm going to be using their tape measure in their system, it doesn't matter if for some reason this has shrank, because I will be using the exact measurement from this tape measure to align with the measures in the book, so it should still give me the measurements I want. But they only require a full bust. Whoa. And so straight across the bust says I am, drum roll please, 128. And then from what I understand, I take my very crusty little thing here and I move this until it says 128. And then it has this little teeny hole right there. That is where I'm going to put a pin and use this and mark out all of my pieces onto my pattern, which will create a garment that should fit me the first time with very little to do.
Don't be ridiculous.
Now, let's go ahead and see if I can figure out exactly how to do this, because I have a fresh batch of alphanumeric paper and a crayon to draw some lines. But I do think one of the coolest things about YouTube is that you get to collaborate with your friends from afar. So while I set this up, I want to remind you that this actually, I don't think was my idea. I believe my dear friend, Haley Marie Vintage, they made an entirely mystery machine dress. So make sure that when you are done here watching my Vel-MOD, you head over to Haley's channel and check out their video to see what shenanigans they got into. And now, we draw. Ta-da! So the first thing I have to do is something that feels very, very wrong, directly in the middle. How do you tell if it's directly in the middle? So it's gotta go there, and then I gotta kind of put it into my table here. That's fine. So if I'm looking at all of my numbers here, it looks like the biggest number on here is going to be 66. So this is how much paper room-ish situation I need, because I'm starting with the back. And this pattern system is designed that any measurement above that H marking is to go on the bust measurement, and anything below the H mark is to go off the hip measurement. However, since my bust was 128 and my hips were 129, I accidentally went off of 128 for the entire process. However, since it was 1 centimeter different, I didn't see that big of a problem. So I'm supposed to put a mark, 63. Shiza, it just moved. Do I have to like tape this down or something? I don't like that though. This is old paper. What do I have that's heavy? The Mod Podge I literally used in the last video. Just gonna set that right there. Now this won't move. Ah! And then the thingy comes out. I don't know, you need like cork or felt or something I don't really have. I'm just gonna hold it, it's fine. Okay, 66 for this one. I really hope that the other thing hasn't, this thing hasn't shrank to the point that this is all gonna be for nothing. 28 for this one, 22, 25, at least the metal wouldn't have changed, right? 49, 48, 50? Okay, I think I did it. So now I just need to remove the pen, which comes out scarily easily. Move that guy, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Nope, sure didn't. However, okay. Were they both supposed to be 27? I don't know, but there's definitely gonna be a dart missing. Like the other dart on the front's there. Now I just get my straight ruler and I start connecting the dots. This is why you should read the instructions fully before you do these. These with the little dot on the end, it's 48.5. Okay, BRB, gonna go fix that. But now let's take a little break from this to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Pair Eyewear. Pair Eyewear, in case you have not heard of them, is a glasses company that believes your glasses should be just as customizable as your clothes. Because listen, I am not even going to sit here and say that I do not love to change up my glasses. But the thing is that the barrier to entry for glasses being fun is how spendy they can get with the frames and my very strong prescription. Fun fact, I can't see anything right now. And that's where Pair Eyewear comes in to help, because their base frames and prescription lenses begin pricing at $60. And then for each topper that you want to add on, pricing starts at $25. Which means that I can spice up my Quinn frames in blue tortoise with my classic jack-o'-lantern toppers, my Grogu gradient toppers, which, let's be real here, these are actually the favorite thing I've ever put on my face. And no person who lives or ever visits a place with bright sun, aka Florida where I live, would be complete without a polarized wood grain sun top to add a classic touch here. And I truly love that not only do I have a pair of glasses that I know fits my face well, but also that I can then spice it up. Pumpkin spice, if you will. Whenever I please. And if you're not sure exactly which frame would fit your face the best, you can always go on Pair Eyewear's website and try out their try-on feature, where you can put the frames that you're not sure about digitally right on your face from home without spending a dime. That way you can be assured that the glasses that you are buying will look exactly the way that you want. So if you want to give yourself all treats and no tricks this Halloween season, make sure that you are clicking the link down below in my description box or scanning the QR code on screen and using my code StephanieCanada15 for 15% off of your first pair. And thank you to Pair for sponsoring today's video, but now let's get back to it.
I fixed it!
And with that fixed, I set out to play the world's biggest game of Connect the Dots. Last one that I know is not supposed to be straight based on the marks that are in there, but there's no dot in between, so straight line it is. Oh, and a dead Sharpie. And that takes us to the very first piece all drafted out. And I will say, except for that weird dart thing where they forgot to give me a number, this looks pretty close to what I was supposed to do. So I now feel comfortable moving forward with the rest of it. And while drafting the front was just about as taxing as drafting the back was, the real trouble came in with the sleeve. There's a reason why we call them sleevels. Because if I thought I disliked sewing sleeves, I disliked drafting them even more. Well, I've only just finished the jacket and my brain is melty. So what I decided to do was take a little bit of a break, and then I did a live stream with some of my clothing level members to really help me have the impetus to want to continue to do this, because after self-drafting a sleeve, I never wanted to sew ever again. And fun fact, this round was also not without issue. Oh no, this looks so wrong. Can you see how it weirdly bellies out in the middle? This is what we're actually looking at. That's what it's supposed to look like. But I pressed on despite my very serious reservations in this system. Okay. I mean, I'm gonna cut it out. I don't know. This feels wrong. It also doesn't feel like it's my size. And opposite to the usual chaos that's on this channel, I actually decided, because the pattern looks so wrong, that it would behoove me to actually make a mock-up. So I found some sheets with some holes in them, and I decided to use those. It's a good thing I did.
Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
And that was all my brain could handle for today. Good morning. Tell me why. This thing does not even come close to fitting. I know I have no makeup on. I don't care at this moment because I'm so annoyed. This thing, I'm pretty sure this is drafted for like a size 14. And yes, I did actually check to see what 50 inches would convert to in centimeters, which is technically 127 centimeters, which falls in line with what I actually did for this entire thing. So I don't know what you all were smoking when you made this crap, but this does not fit. Also, it doesn't even line up. Why is there extra? There's no instructions with this, so like go with God and the will of baby Jeebus in his whatever. I don't know what I'm gonna do right now. I think if I redraft this top bodice to the largest size, just this top section, the one that's too big, I will see if I can even make this work. Because listen to me, I've done enough sizing up with a hair, a wing, and a prayer that I can take these skirt pieces and I can figure that out. The other thing, this jacket right here, you see that? You see how cute that like slightly shorter sleeve is? Please tell me this thing extends down past my hand. It's almost to the knuckles before my fingers. That's my thumb down there on a jacket that when I looked at the pieces to that thing, yeah, I don't think those are gonna fit me either. So I'm big mad right now. We're gonna retrace this bodice and we're gonna try and paper fit it because I'm not wasting any more fabric. Nope, we're just gonna draft and go. But seriously, were you guys just like listening to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and doing it at the same time? Because I seriously have big questions as to who the heck drafted this stuff. And so I cleared my space in the most effective way possible before returning to my drafting shenanigans. And with everything set up, something still didn't feel right. Well, again, no way in hell is that right. when you have to move the push pin out of the way to see the number, something's wrong with your system. But I pushed forward and drafted again. And by the time I was done, I had to blink a few times to make sure that I had done it correctly, because it did not look like it had increased that much. Oh no. I want to be clear, this is the largest setting. This is just poorly made. That's why they stopped making these. I see it now. And feeling minorly defeated, I slowly eked my way over to my pattern stash for some type of heavenly guidance. Sadly, that did not come, and so I sat angrily on my floor while I attempted to search for any piece that would be a good back piece for this, knowing that I would have to amalgamate it, hack at it, and eventually just shove it into submission for the back of this dress. Thankfully, I found one. That'll do. And I just remembered that because this stupid pattern system tells you to tape out the width of your fabric on the floor and then place your pieces and then cut it out, I haven't washed any of this yet. So I set to task approximating exactly how much fabric I would need. It was all super precise, I don't know what you're talking about. Then I cut it out and did the most important step of washing it. Time to wash the fabric. Wash the fabric. Wash your fabric. Then I had to deal with just how short the strap was on this pattern. So I added a little extension piece, and that worked much better. And since I now know that that is absolutely not going to fit, I am going to take these stupid jacket pieces and I'm gonna flare them out more so that they look a bit more like the drawing. What an idea. And with every ounce of my being completely overwhelmed, it was time for the hair tie of concentration. And after a quick stint in the dryer, it was time to cut it out. Okay, mandatory floor time after cutting that out is now done. And I realized that the red that I washed is not quite the right color. Should I be dyeing it this late in the process? No, but I'm going to because it bothers me that it's like this very pastel red. So let's go adventure and see how double knit polyester takes dye. Tasty. Good soup. And with the fabric properly soupified, it was time for it to go to the washer and the dryer. And yes, the very white dogs were out of the splatter zone. And while that was working, I went over and actually added the markings for the darts. In a very imprecise way, using a Sharpie, which, now looking back on it, I would not recommend.
and with the darts sewn and the jacket vaguely tried on, it was time for bed.
Good morning. It is time to attempt to finish this because I ain't got time. Now, I will say last night, after I did the darts that you saw, I did go ahead and give the jacket a quick pin and try on, and well, double knit might not have been my best choice for this jacket, but I'm also not wasting very good horsehair canvas that I don't have a whole lot of to make it stand out the way that it's supposed to, so it's just gonna be a little droopy. And just in case you're wondering, because I left you hanging with how did the fabric take that dye, because it looked pretty good last night, right? It did almost nothing. Yeah, so this basically made it like maybe one shade redder. And I think that just means double knit from the 70s isn't meant to take dye. So I'm just gonna go with this is better than it was, so we're just gonna use it.
And I got started by cutting out my centerpiece, which meant laying it down and then scooting it 2 inches away from the center fold, pinning it down, adding my seam allowance, and cutting it out. Then I started in proper on the jacket by tying off the darts, stitching the shoulders together, pinning down the sleeves. I said pinning down the sleeves. Ah, much better. And yes, the Junior and Sniftigator did come check my work, and it was positively received. I'll see myself out. And with everything stitched together except the underarm, it was time to give it a try. And besides looking like a glorified Oompa Loompa, there were some issues.
Why is this so huge?
But unfortunately, I didn't understand the full ramifications until I had sewed together the entire side panels. This was a poor choice.
All right, hear me out. Because quality control, who is she? So we already know that this pattern definitely did not have the flare like it did, right? So I made it flare more. I did nothing to the sleeve. I'll be very clear, I did not adjust the sleeve. I drafted the sleeve and made the sleeve as is. So not only would I like to know on what planet they were doing this. I am 5'10". Who did you make these for? This is supposed to be a crappy jacket. So I have to hem the tar out of these. Also, elbow bend, don't know her. She's like 4 inches away, which tells me there's a lot to this that is wrong that was not my doing. And like, I fully understand that in a jacket, you're supposed to have room for sweaters, right? That was what my mom always told me when buying a jacket. Make sure that you have room for the sweater underneath, right? I have room for a whole other friggin' person in this sleeve. I'm just annoyed. It's fine. But now I'm gonna take a little bit of a break from this, go get some lunch, and I'll see you once I've calmed down a little. Well, lunch has been had. I cannot say I feel better about this, though. I really don't want to rip apart double knit polyester, even though I know I do not have a choice. But what I can do in the meantime is sew the collar together. Do I 100% know how this is going to go? Nope. Everything else here hasn't quite fit the way it's supposed to, because you got to sew together one of these sides, right? Like it's either got to be along this way, because I think it attaches here because it's got a flat section, which would be arguably the back center, right? So I'm gonna go sew this together.
And sew it together, I did.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
And this is your casual reminder that if you are watching this and sewing at the same time, the time to check your bobbins is before you start to sew.
Oh no! I just ran out of bobbin thread. I can hear it. Oh! Where's the other thread, Brenda? Don't know her.
So stop what you're doing, go check your bobbin thread. You'll thank me later. And with bobbin thread on board, I continued forward.
Collar. Now done. Still looks like a mustache. Now the real question. So I'd originally thought, oh, on what planet? Did I mention I hate this pattern? What? That can't be right.
That is so curly and wrong. Is it the other way? Did I just sew it on backwards? I mean, I guess it's possible. Anything's possible at this point. But I thought, like, right? Like, this feels like, the top of this feels like exterior of the collar. Or did they just draft it wrong? And I'm never going to get this to lay the way I want it to because their draftings suck. Listen, I'll pin it till we win it here, friends. But real question, do I go with red or do I stay with orange on orange? I know it's going to be a lot of orange, but is it good to be monochromatic in this? Or should I flip and have it be red up top? I don't know. Let's ask the members. So I headed over to Patreon and my YouTube members and asked them what they thought. And while I wait, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and seam rip the sleeves. Seam ripping double knit, definitely not a heinous task at all. No, not at all. I mean, I guess I could make this a little easier. Where are my scissors? Because guess what? If I'm just gonna cut the end of the sleeve off anyway, I'm just gonna do it before I waste too much time tearing out those 2 inches. Because I think I want the sleeve to be like here. Bye. Hey, look, that'll come off so much easier now. Ooh, stupid pattern. Okay, now we seam rip. All right, BRB while I spend 7,000 years ripping these apart.
3,000 years later.
And with my sleeves opened up to the new elbow, I stitched the dart back in place and ran the sleeves closed. Then it was time to deal with the fact that this looked like a 1980s jacket more than a 1960s jacket. So I ended up cutting off 1 inch off of each shoulder to bring up the shoulder to closer to where my actual shoulder is. Before, after. Much better. And yes, it did involve resetting the sleeves. I would like a round of applause, please. Then it was time to face my nemesis, the dress. I started by pinning everything together and standing in front of my mirror and hating it. Fully understanding that this bodice is probably drafted for an A-size cup. And the only thing that I ever did that has A's attached to it were a couple of my grades. That's about it. So knowing that I had screwed with the fit of this, I knew I had to lift up the entire panel so that I got rid of the princess line-ish that I had drafted into the pattern. I mean, it's better. And with that final abysmal try-on, that, my friends, is where I got so frustrated that I had to stop recording. Because you see, it's one thing when you use an off-the-shelf pattern to get a dress that has a questionable fit. It's an entire other thing when you spent hours upon hours drafting and then redrafting a pattern that was supposed to fit at least a little bit better than this, only to have it completely backfire. So, I'll see you tomorrow, where we can deal with the jacket pieces. Good morning. It's been a day. I can't even sit here and lie to you and be like, oh yeah, no, I stopped, I relaxed. No, I did none of that. Absolutely not. You know what I did do? I did finish it, except for the hem. That's it. And yes, that is a chunky hem, because when I went to go put it on, it didn't look mod, it looked mid at best. So I had to hem it like, I think that's like 5 inches. Oh yeah, I finished this. And when I tell you, getting this to look even passably like it fits me was a Herculean effort. Herculean? Hercules. Here, let me show you. When you have a pattern that you've never done before, there are sometimes you have to trim away sections that maybe just don't fit right, or, but it's usually very small amounts, very minuscule. This giant wad of fabric is what I had to cut away from this dress to even make it look as good as it does. I will admit to you now, there are no pockets. I'm so sorry. Usually I do install pockets, but not this time. No, I was so annoyed last night that there was no pocket installation, and I'm not redoing it now. But what I have to do today is, just because you put together the main portions of the jacket doesn't mean the jacket's done. So I gotta finish that up.
And as much as I adore all of my channel members and all of my Patreon members, you all were polar opposite in these polls that I did. YouTube wants red, Patreon wants orange. I don't really know what to do right now, so I think I'm just gonna go with, I want to say I'm gonna go with red, because then it would look more mod, and there's very little red in this already, because it's just that one center panel, so a couple of extra red flares will help it make it feel a bit more like Velma. I'm stalling because I really don't think this collar fits either, and I can't draft a collar, so...
I'm in danger!
So I hauled out my trusty dusty, vintage, sort of plus-size mannequin to try and pin this collar on. First, I did have to take down the edges, as I was now sure that this was the correct side that I had stitched as far as the exterior of the collar.
And then we turn Barbara. Okay, red side up, center to center.
And truly pinning this collar was an absolute feat. However, from far away you can't really get an idea for it.
Here, let me show you up close. So yeah, I guess when I tuck it with the facing, it does sort of look like a collar. But man, this is a wild journey. Cause like around the back here, like I do not know what's gonna happen. Cause there's a point, there's a straight up point in this. That is a point. Like it's gonna have this huge bump at the back that's gonna, I don't know. But I am gonna at least top stitch it to give it something he threw here.
So I scooted my needle all the way over and got to top stitching. And for pinning round 2 Electric Boogaloo, it didn't go much better. Because while one side would go on quite nicely, as soon as you tried to amalgamate the other side to go around the direction it was supposed to, it fought more than 2 cats over the very last sardine in the entire tin in a back alley behind a bar. The only thing that I could think to do was to only sew half of it from the front to the back,
Flip it and reverse it.
and then stop my sewing, rotate it around so that I once again went from the front to the back on the other side. Therefore, whatever puckering occurred would happen at the back center neck. And if you're looking at the back center of my neck, what are you doing back behind me? That's weird.
I know this is not how you're supposed to do it. I don't know, man.
And then it was time to hack at the pattern that I'm very positive I'm never going to use again so that I could get the facings. At this point, my dog was equally as depressed with this project because his Junior Insniftigator license did not cover all the traction from room to room as I attempted to cut all this out. But I grabbed my spare washed orange pieces and got to cutting.
Ooh.
Once again, making sure to leave room for that 5/8 inch seam allowance, and well...
Because Majesty, only Paolo can take this and give you...
A princess.
Listen, I cut these right where the diagram said they should be, so why they are once again this wrong is wild to me. But it tracks for the project. So let's pin this to this silly jacket so I can be done.
And pin I did. Now you might be sitting here going, Stephanie, you seem really frustrated with this project. Are you sure that you're okay? And listen, honestly, I don't know that answer, because this project tested me in ways that I never ever thought I would be tested. It's one thing to have me draft an entire pattern all on my own. It's another thing for that pattern to be horridly wrong, even when I'm drafting it correctly based on the measurements and the information that I'm given.
As I suspected, this is not exactly correct. Are we surprised at this point? No, we're not.
It's a really good thing this stuff stretches, because otherwise this would not work.
That's what we're looking at.
So then I stitched down all of the facings.
Well, it's done now. I'm just going to hand tack some facings while I talk to you about this entire experience, and It was not fun. I do look forward to doing a sewing project once again where I actually enjoy not only the making of, but also the final product, because this stuff is hateful, and I'm remembering why I don't sew with it, but like maybe once a year. We'll talk about the good things first. So one of the very good things is that I tried a new system, which is very good because I would like to grow my sewing skills because, listen, had you handed this to Stephanie 4 years ago, I would have wet myself. Like literally, I would not have known what to do. I was afraid to make a gathered skirt. Okay, so you really can start from anywhere, folks. But this thing had no instructions. And yeah, it had the basic, like, this is how you do these weird things. Hems and stitches and all of that. That doesn't help when there's literally no instructions. So something like this is clearly meant for someone who already has the order of operation and the steps that you need to do and all the little stuff along the way, because this thing tested me, which I was not really fully prepared for. But yeah, I don't like this. And it's not even the draft it yourself part that I don't like. What I don't like is that I drafted it myself using clearly wrong materials and then wasted so much time and effort when I could have just potentially just like drafted it myself and had it been equally as successful. Except for that bodice thing. That was weird, and yeah, I needed a pattern piece for that. Also, double knit is the devil, in case you're wondering. And what's funny is I'm trying to remember if my mom didn't even save anything from this period. Like, my mom had stuff from the 60s when it was still cotton, but no, she kept, if she had double knit stuff, which I'm sure she did, she kept none of that, because I did not inherit any of it. So I am proud of myself for the skills that I learned. I am proud of myself for using the materials I had. I actually am quite proud of this project in how it turned out. Did the dye do effectively nothing and made me just waste half a day? Yes, it did. But I'm proud of myself for trying these things, right? Because if you're not trying and learning new things, what are we doing? We're on this planet to learn. Apparently I need to learn how to hand stitch things. No, I know how to hand stitch, I'm just not on camera. But overall, I am very proud of myself for trying new things. I learned how to use my apparent blind hem foot and stitch. So look at me improving. Am I gonna hand sew another hem? Probably not, because that was actually really easy. Oh, and am I ever going to use the dot system again? No. I am going to attempt to sell this thing on my website with a very clear caveat that it's all probably very wrong. But if you would like it for the historical value, you can have it. But I am open to other ways of the dot system, like other types of like draft at home things. I have a couple Mrs. Depew that I want to try, and I think those will go better. If for no other reason than, I don't know, Mrs. Depew cares. What an idea. I feel like the dot system people were just like, oh, well, there's this thing in Europe and we should make a version of it. Who needs quality control? Throw that right out the door. If you try and make something with it, I will warn you, it's probably gonna go just as poorly. But before we go over and call Haley, if you do want to take home your own pair of glasses, go ahead and click the link down below in my description and use code StephanieCanada15 for 15% off of your first pair. And thank you to Pair for sponsoring this video. But now, let's call Haley. Hello, friend.
Hello.
How was your project?
Pretty straightforward.
Oh, that's good. At least one of us was. Mine was a challenge, to say the least, between a system that the draftings were just wrong to the fact that I, in my old age, chose to do everything in polyester double knit. So, not my best choice here. But I guess I just have to show you my lovely version of Vel-MOD. Ta-da! She is a sweater knit, double knit polyester with pockets.
Okay.
And contrast collar. And goodbye. My microphone was on that jacket. Sorry for that.
No, this is great.
So yeah, she's very short though. Like, there are knees involved. Listen, I'm 5'10". My version of short is, you know, anything above the knee. But yes, so this is my Vel-MOD to Haley's amazing Mystery Machine dress, which you're kind of giving a sneak peek of, but I will blur most of it so you can't see it, because that's why you have to go to their video and watch it. Now, let's go to the reveal. Scooby Doo, where are you? My glasses! Jinky Scoop, we figured it out! That's no ghost. Okay, that's enough. It's enough slices. It's enough double knit polyester. Freedom! Why is this not laying right? Are we to the part where I can lay you flat now? Sort of. Kinda. Maybe? Brenda? Bueller! No, just stay. Oh, you're getting a great shot of my roots. Enjoy that. Who are you? What do you want?